oh yeah, no. A country that still believes that they have like global superpower status, meanwhile, has completely lost all of its influential role in the global stage. Galil, no! Galil, no! That's what he did. Vladimir, stop!
Now to President Trump and the war in Ukraine. As Russia escalates its attacks,
unjustifiably going after someone for appearing on Fortnite Fridays. Really f***ed up stuff, folks.
Trump pushed back, but also embraced Russia's goals in peace talks. Senior political correspondent Rachel Scott is at the White House with the story. Good morning, Rachel.
George, good morning to you. And the president has made it clear he's not happy with Russia's aggression against Ukraine, but overnight they launched another strike as the fighting continues.
This morning in Moscow, Russian officials claiming a car bomb killed a high-ranking Russian military general. This surveillance video showing the moment a parked vehicle explodes as a person walks toward it. Ukraine has not taken credit for the attack. It comes as Russia launches another drone strike across Ukraine, just one day after targeting Kyiv.
Not gonna lie, it's kind of wild watching Ukrainians get so much better at doing clandestine operations and doing terror, and then thinking about what a potential 9/11 might look like in the future. Like we're basically watching these dudes take it to Russia first, okay? But inevitably there is going to come a time when they're, you know, when they turn the crosshairs on an administration that sold them down the line, potentially. Just saying.
And one of the
I've seen this one before. Yeah, that's what I mean. This is not a movie. This is just look at American history.
Frankly, that's what we wanted last time. We almost got it, and then they backed out of that deal. But we had it to go into China and to sell our product, sell our wares. In other words, it's called to open China. That would be great. But I'm not even sure I'm going to ask for it because they don't want it open. They don't want it open.
Trying to come in here.
Immigration front. Big thing on the tariffs. But because of tariffs, I could possibly get that. What do you think? Opening up China would be a big win, right? The problem is no matter how big the win is, the press will not give me credit for it. If I got the greatest win in history, they'll pay us trillions and trillions of dollars. They'll give us anything we want. The press will say, Trump, he just had a terrible defeat. He suffered a terrible defeat. But the people know. No, I think we're going to have a lot of big wins. I don't know if it's going to be covered that way by the fake news, but the wins are going to be very substantial. You know, we're losing. We were losing with Biden, 5 billion a day. Think of that, 5 billion.
So President Trump speaking to reporters there on Air Force One as he makes his way to Rome for the Pope's funeral.
Damn, they're cutting him, dude.
Covering a lot of topics. Quite hard to hear him over the roar of the engines of Air Force One. But when it came to that
rough,
meeting
yeah,
between the U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and President Putin, he said discussions went well. It was a good meeting. He also spoke about
dude,
tariffs,
good tariffs
of
deal
course,
for sure.
saying we're making very good.
Not sure if you saw Trump is going mask out about how much he cares about genes and what it means for greatness, and it's really awkward.
Judge, and he was asked if he was going to have any meetings on the sidelines of the funeral. He said, frankly, it's a little disrespectful to have meetings when you're at the funeral of the Pope. But he said, I'll be talking to people. I'll be seeing lots of people. One person he doesn't expect to bump into, though, is former President Joe Biden. It's not high on my list. It's really not, he said. We'll keep across those comments for you, bring you any updates throughout the evening.
Yeah, he's got a dude. This is we don't talk about the Brandonization of Trump nearly enough on this broadcast. We really don't talk about it, but there is certainly a Brandonization of Donald Trump that's taken place, especially in the second term, where his I did NATO Jack stuff is even dumber. Someone in the chat actually made a really funny comparison that I hadn't even thought of, which is everything that Brandon went through with Bibi and Israel, Donald Trump is ironically going through with Vladimir Putin, where he's like, no, Vladimir Putin, if I wag my finger at you, you will stop. I know it because you trust me. and I trust you. And it's even dumber because at least like with Israel, I mean, in some ways it's dumber, and in some ways it's, I guess, like more desperate, understandably, because like you don't have the same level of control over your foreign adversary as you do over Israel, right? If you're the American government. But it is quite funny that as Biden was like, come on, Jack, don't do it. Don't stop killing these children. Oh, all right, well, I'll show you Jesus. Oh, you'll have a come to Jesus moment, right? And then Benjamin Netanyahu would be like, we are killing the children tomorrow. We will keep killing the children like every day. That is what would happen. And now Donald Trump is like, oh, dude, look at this sweetheart deal we gave you. Come on. It's everything you ever wanted. Please don't keep bombing Kyiv. And Vladimir Putin's like, no, we're going to do that. We're going to keep bombing Kyiv, actually. You. Suck my dick. In some ways, obviously, you have way less motion with a guy like Vladimir Putin than you're supposed to have with Benjamin Netanyahu. But still dumb. Still absolutely idiotic for him to put himself out there in this way to look like a fool. Anyway, let's get back to the Ukraine peace talks now.
Attacks on the Capitol in months. President Trump posting on social media, Vladimir, stop, urging him to get the peace deal done.
Yo, I'm sorry. This was awesome. Like in the background, horrifying events are taking place. 12 people were murdered, right, in Kyiv. But Donald Trump's response to this is to go, Vladimir, stop. Like, what the fuck are you saying? What are you fucking doing? God damn. He literally is going, this isn't you, Vladimir. This isn't your heart. It's like, bro, I don't know if you know this, but he invaded the country, you know? This is absolutely his heart. What the f- do you mean? You saying that the U.S. has turned into the UK a country with no motion was an elite take? Oh, yeah, no. A country that still believes that they have like global superpower status, meanwhile, has completely lost all of its influential role in the global stage. Galil, no! Galil, no! That's what he did. Vladimir, stop!
And we're in the midst of talking peace, and missiles were fired, and I was not happy with it.
President Trump has repeatedly said he could end the war on day one. In an interview with Time magazine, the president now saying, quote, I said that as an exaggeration. Months into his second term, the war has not ended. In the Oval Office, when asked what concessions Russia was giving up for peace, the president says Putin is not taking the whole country.
Stopping the war, taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
Wow. What a concession. He's not nuking Germany. That's a concession, too. If we're just making up stuff that Vladimir Putin may not even have the capability of doing, that's awesome. What an awesome way to talk about this deal. You have so much motion, sir. Incredible. Incredible deal maker, dude. Yeah. Well, it's okay. He's not invading Poland. So that's the concession. He's not invading Poland. That's a big deal for me, I think.
The Trump administration has put forward a peace proposal that would prohibit NATO membership for Ukraine and force Ukraine to give up land that Russia has seized since its invasion, in addition to giving up Crimea. The president telling Time, Crimea will stay with Russia, and Zelensky understands that, and everybody understands that it's been with them for a long time. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has rejected that idea and pushed back against the proposal, saying, we will negotiate, we will not surrender. For the White House, it's an about face. From President Trump's first term, when his administration pledged that Crimea would remain a part of Ukraine. And before becoming Secretary of State, Marco Rubio spoke out about the danger of allowing Russia to keep Crimea.
The president's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, is back in Russia meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. But again, George, this comes as Russia continues their aggression and their attacks against Ukraine.
And Rachel, the president also in this trade war with China. China made a couple of moves overnight, but also said there's no talks.
Exactly, George. And they're really pushing back hard against the president's repeated claims.
I'm sorry, but the funniest thing that has taken place so far that I'm noticing in mainstream outlets and mainstream reporting is that due to the overwhelming incompetence of the Trump administration, even the media is forced to take a neutral stance towards China, as opposed to consistently being like, well, you can't trust the Chinese. They're Chinese. Like, normally, if this was the Brandon administration and they were trying to, enforce similar trade policies or whatever, like, the way they would go about it would be a little bit more professional. And therefore, the media would, do what they normally do. They'd be like, well, you can't trust the Chinese for saying that they're not actually talking to the Biden envoys because, like, they're Chinese, they're probably lying, blah, 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 right? They would be xenophobic as fuck. But because Trump is so belligerent and in broad daylight, transparently belligerent, that the media has basically been forced into a corner where they have to recognize they have to recognize our Chinese enemies as a more responsible party in this convo. Incredible. Donald Trump, the great unifier, just not in the way that he thought it would work, has basically created a support system amongst China and Japan, okay? That is, remember, chat, when I went to Japan and I met with the Japanese Communist Party, one of the questions I asked the Japanese Communist Party, which is an opposition party that is supposed to be, fundamentally and functionally closer to China than any other Japanese party. They're the fucking Communist Party. And I asked them, like, how do you feel about China? And they were like, nah, no, fuck no. We don't fuck with those boys. All right. Now you got the LDP, you got the liberal fucking party being like, actually, we have an incredibly important trade relationship with China, and we are not going to compromise that, despite the fact that we're a fucking vassal state for U.S. empire.
That he is, in fact, engaging in talks and negotiations with China to end this trade war that he started. The president, in a new interview with Time magazine, says that he has spoken to President Xi, but China is pushing back on that, calling it fake news, saying there are no negotiations on tariff issues and no agreement has been reached, George.
Okay, Rachel, thanks very much.
They look like old friends.
How are you, Mr. President?
Fine, just fine, thank you.
And sound like it too.
So good to see you.
So good to see you, Steve Witkoff told Vladimir Putin. This was his fourth meeting with the Russian president as Donald Trump continues his push for peace. But there wasn't any rush. Before the meeting, Witkoff found time to go sightseeing with Kremlin envoy Kirill Dmitriev, a visual demonstration of how Washington and Moscow appear increasingly in lockstep.
We're just re-establishing contacts. We're just trying to find the way out from this terrible crisis which was created by previous American administration.
Witkoff's visit coincided with a symbolic anniversary of Soviet-American cooperation, 80 years since their troops met in Germany before the end of World War II. So, are we poised for another historic collaboration?
It is difficult to say. History repeats itself. Let's hope that we will achieve victory. Vladimir Vladimirovich will make the right decision.
I doubt it because a lot was promised, but nothing has been done yet.
Speaking of promises, another from Donald Trump, that he can end the war soon.
So I want to say 5,000 young men. They happen to be mostly Ukrainian, Russian. 5,000 young Ukrainian.
I love this universe that we exist in, where all of the Harvard, Yale graduate, like, think tank lovers that have spent years and years slaving away at the Atlantic Council have been cast aside by the administration for a fucking guy that plays golf with Donald Trump. Oh my God. Remember, Steve Witkoff, his qualification for this position as the top American diplomat is that he plays golf with Donald Trump. He's just a real estate guy before this. And in some respects, I think that calcified Atlantic Council approach, unironically has been a setback in negotiations. So in some ways, fucking Steve Witkoff is Steve Goatkoff. It's crazy. Because let's be real. What he's doing is presenting himself as Donald Trump in every room. That's all he's doing. And Donald Trump has a lot of crazy ideas. But sometimes Donald Trump and his crazy ideas get to force a ceasefire. I mean, I think you're going to get a stalemate exchange for a slaughter. I think so too, but we'll see.
Ukrainian and Russian men, and that's a big honor if I could do it. I think we're pretty close.
The Kremlin called Witkoff's visit constructive and useful and said it brought their respective positions closer together. That's not good news for Ukraine. For them, Donald Trump's current peace plan is already far too one-sided.
I mean, it is.
Not everything's going the Kremlin's way. A senior general was killed in this car bomb outside Moscow, which Russia blamed on Ukraine. But it seems there's not much Kyiv could do right now to change the way things are heading. Ivor Bennett, Sky News, Moscow.
Today, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is meeting with Vladimir Putin again in Moscow. This follows Russia's attacks in Kyiv. They were just abhorrent yesterday, leaving at least 12 innocent people dead.
Brian is so funny. Again, I always remind people of this, but Brian Kilmeade, the person who's speaking right now, was a Ron DeSantis head. And these are the exact reasons why he was a Ron DeSantis head, because he was worried that Donald Trump would do crazy shit and not toe the State Department agenda on Ukraine and do ridiculously irresponsible things like blow up global trade for no reason other than because he's fucking bored. Which is why every time he talks about this stuff, he'll just like slot that in where he'll be like, it's an abhorrent moment.
Steve Witkoff is meeting with Vladimir Putin again in Moscow. This follows Russia's attacks in Kyiv. They were just abhorrent yesterday, leaving at least 12 innocent people dead, with President Trump pushing for an end to the war.
I have no allegiance to anybody. I have allegiance to saving lives, and I want to save a lot of lives. A lot of young people, mostly young people. It's the war. It's the soldiers. And if we can do that, also, as you know, I got started because the money that's been spent on this war is insane. It's a killing field. 5,000 soldiers a week on average. And we want to stop that.
So Fox News senior strategic analyst General Jack Keane, the president always makes that clear. It's his objective to stop the killing. Are they en route to stopping the killing?
It doesn't appear so, based on where we are, for a couple of reasons. One, Zelensky and his team accepted a 30-day ceasefire and, removed the condition. He wanted some kind of security guarantees to be able to do that. Russia was offered the same thing, and they have rejected it. And not only that, they have continued to focus on killing civilians, targeting civilians, because they want to break the will of the Ukrainian people and put pressure on Zelensky and also on our administration to make more concessions. That's what's going on. I mean, this is full throttle on the part of Putin. He is the problem here. He has been the problem from the beginning because he obviously invaded a country illegally. And he committed genocide. He's a thug and he's a killer and he's a war criminal. And he certainly only wants to go to that negotiating table and probably make a deal. I'm
not going to lie. All these fucking guys deserve Donald Trump more than anybody else. Because now they're perma stuck in a position. Talk about how fucked up what Russia is doing. Because these are all, okay, I'm going to keep it $150 with you. Okay, Brian Kilmeade, this guy, all of these fucking think tank guys, they're all full-throated support to Ukraine guys, okay? But they have to also dick ride Donald Trump. It's what they did. Like their ambition and their motivation is partly responsible for Ukraine being in the position that it's in right now. And it's not just because like Vladimir Putin invaded. I'm saying like their constant egging on of Ukraine, the false claims that Ukraine was going to join NATO when everybody knew that was never going to fucking happen. All this stuff has played a major role, and they've quite literally lost the war. They've lost the battle. They lost the battle at the very least. Like the battle lines are not in favor of their proxy in this process, and they have to still under normal circumstances, they would be like, Vladimir Putin, we need to kill him. Like, we need to keep doing this. We need to keep doing this. We need to urge Ukrainians to lower their age of conscription to fucking 18. You come in. But because it's Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is talking about how, you know, Vladimir, stop. They have to present this in a way where, on the one hand, Putin is evil, but also it's cool that our president is besties with him. So they're just like stuck in this weird, they're stuck in this weird bind. On the one hand, they want the war to continue. On the other hand, they have to make it seem like Donald Trump is awesome in the way that he's dealing with it. And he is demonstrably not awesome in the way that he's dealing with it.
Unless he's able to get concessions that make Ukraine very vulnerable to a future attack, because he has not given up one iota. Our intelligence services publicly have released information that demonstrates the fact that Russia fully intends to take control of Ukraine and then also other countries in Eastern Europe. That's his objective, and we have to keep that in mind when we're dealing with him.
General, you just told me something in the break I did not think was possible. The Ukrainians want to write a check to buy Patriot missiles, a defense battery, and we said no?
Yeah, we did. I'm not sure the reason why, but it opens up the door for an avenue that we really need to take advantage of. The State Department has a program called Foreign Military Financing. That is direct loans where you can get military equipment, you pay back the loan at interest. So the government makes money here. Poland is buying tanks, helicopters, air defense system, HIMARS, etc. Over $10 billion worth of stuff. The Ukrainians can do the same because now they have collateral in the rare mineral development and other things in the country. And also they obviously have...
Oh my God. Bro, I'm not going to lie. When I hear this kind of shit from this admin, or when I hear this kind of shit from like generals and stuff, I'm like, you are also just as stupid and awful and evil as Donald Trump is. Like, the proper way to go about this is to shit on Donald Trump and to tell Donald Trump to shut the fuck up about Zelensky and to try to manage this, manage the situation in a way that where Ukraine doesn't get fucked over in the process, where we're not just like literally picking apart Ukraine for scraps. Except these guys literally are just like, dude, it's awesome. We can give him HIMARS. Like, who's gonna use the Patriot missiles, dude? Like, they've run out of, like, you look at a situation where raw earth is mine now. And this guy's saying, oh, they can use the raw earth as collateral to purchase Patriot missiles. It's a fucking fantastic opportunity. He's just a missile salesman. Like, I know I shit on Donald Trump a lot. And he is fucking worthy of being shitted on. But it's not like this guy's alternative is more intelligent either. Like, his alternative is to farm Ukraine even fucking further. It's crazy.
Some money because people have been giving them money, and that's what they wanted to do with the Patriot systems. We can take the American taxpayer out of this. And
following Steve Witkoff's meeting in Moscow, President Trump says he believes it's time for President Zelensky and President Putin to meet. Just landed in Rome. A good day in talks and meetings with Russia and Ukraine. They are very close to a deal, and the two sides should now meet at very high levels to finish it off. Most of the major points are agreed to. Stop the bloodshed now. We will be wherever is necessary to help facilitate the end to this cruel and senseless war. Following Steve Witkoff's meeting in Moscow, President Trump suggests it's time for President Zelensky and President Putin to meet. I, for one, can't wait to see what the fuck the Russian counter proposal looks like. Reuters published a full Ukraine-Europe peace talk counter proposal to the U.S. talks in London. From talks in London. There are four main parts: ceasefire, security guarantees for Ukraine territory, and economics. On the ceasefire front, a commit to a full unconditional ceasefire in the sky, on land, and at sea. Both sides immediately enter into negotiations with the U.S. and European countries. Number 3, ceasefire monitoring led by the U.S. and supported by third countries. Number 4, Russia must unconditionally return all deported Ukrainian children, exchange prisoners of war for all, release civilian prisoners. Number 3, security guarantees for Ukraine. Number one, Ukraine receives security guarantees, Article 5-like agreement, including from the U.S., but there is no consensus among allies on NATO membership. Number two, no restriction on Ukrainian defense forces. Number three, the guarantor states will be European and willing non-European countries. No restrictions on the presence, weapons, and operations of friendly foreign forces on the territory of Ukraine. Number four, Ukraine pursues accession into the EU. As far as territory goes, yes, dude, I know the TAFs is out. I know it's supposed to be out at 3. I know. I'm not going to watch it right now in the midst of my commentary about what the fuck's going on in Ukraine. Calm down. We will watch it. Shut the fuck up. Oh my God, dude. I know. It's not a losing battle. As well as Ukraine has 800,000 troops active, while Russia only has 600,000 available in Ukraine. It's not in Russia's favor. Concessions are just catering Russia. I am going to ask you this question once again, Lawrence Factor. And I asked you this question yesterday. If the situation on the battlefield is not one that is impossible to fucking win for Ukraine, given desertions, given the political instability born out of forcible drafts, why is the American government, both under the Brandonian leadership and even with Mike Waltz in a moment of fucking honesty, demanded that Ukraine lower their age of conscription to 18? I know what the Atlantic Council's position is. That's why I directly called out the Atlantic Council in this process. I'm asking you why you think the Brandonian position, looking at the writing on the wall, was to say you need to lower your age of conscription to 18. How much more can you withstand in that process? I know why the Atlantic Council would have a more militant attitude towards Ukraine. That's kind of their whole shtick. I do not know nor have an answer for that, but I do know that answer. The U.S. government is strange and slightly off hinge regardless. Okay. That is why I didn't just ask you about Trump's position on this by way of Mike Waltz. I asked you about Brandon and his position on this because Brandon did NATO. He's the NATO guy, right? He loved sticking it to Russia. That was his major thing. He was like, oh yeah, I love unlimited baby murder in Gaza, and I love sticking it to Russia. We're destroying our foreign adversaries' military with 5% of our military budget. That's the Brandon legacy, right? I didn't let the Finlandization of NATO, Jack. I let the NATOization of Finland, right? He did all that. He did AUKUS. He's AUKUS, Jack. He did it. So why did that guy also simultaneously say, well, given the situation on the battlefield, you're going to have to either lower your age of conscription to 18 or we're going to have to reconsider it. Don't tell us not that you were trans. Oh, no. We're back. We're back with these memes. I have a friend who's super into Jerry and has some gain unfortunate right-wing positions about immigrants. I've talked to him one-on-one, but want to offer your content as an alternative. What's a YouTube video of yours? I should send him the process of Hasan pilling him. Send him my Theo Von video, my interview with Theo Von.
And fund Ukraine's military buildup rather significantly. Look at, if Putin is going to reject, which I think he's going to do, the deal, what then do we do? One, crippling sanctions would be option one. And two, upgun Ukraine. Upgun Ukraine to bring Putin to the negotiating table. Not so Ukraine can continue to fight, but Putin pays attention to that military equation and who has an advantage there more than anything else, actually more than sanctions.
I just hope the president knows.
These are levers that we can use these levers.
I hope the president knows that this happens. Sometimes it happens beneath his level because this is defense. Who would not want to, from going into a city? Lavrov told Face the Nation that he says the president of the United States and I think rightly so that we are moving in the right direction and they are heading towards peace. They are ready to.
Yeah, dude, Trump just hasn't seen your coverage on it. That's what it is. Bro tweeted out, Vladimir, stop. Not 24 hours ago. And this dumbass thinks like, oh, maybe I'll be able to get to him by way of a good deal by talking about how good of a deal this is. Amazing. I feel like Trump is just cooked on this process. And even then, when I hear stuff like this, I'm like, damn, like even Trump is in all of his idiocy is further along a more manageable position than these fucking monsters are. Because the reality of the matter is, glazing Adolf Putler aside, and by the way, there is no guarantee that Vladimir Putin is even going to abide by any ceasefire, let alone, sign off on a fucking ceasefire. Make no mistake. And I do think that Trump's way of managing this situation is actually working against that. Okay. But having said that, a ceasefire or some sort of treaty is inevitable. It's just you're basically moving how many people dies in the process. That's why I was in favor of the Antalya program, the 15-point ceasefire negotiation, when Ukraine had tremendously more leverage back then. Do I think that Vladimir Putin has the capacity to take over the entirety of Ukraine? I don't, but that doesn't matter. What matters is how many Ukrainians will die. Because even if they were to lower the age of conscription to 18, and then America started sending in weapons again, okay, a steady flow of weapons, there is no guarantee that they'd be able to train the military fast enough, have enough appetite to fight back, and be able to push Russia out of these territories that they've established hardened positions inside of. So there's no guarantee that this is going to work anyway. So in that regard, I think if Donald Trump was not a fucking asshole, I think him pushing for some kind of ceasefire while also trying to figure out concessions to give to Ukraine, so it doesn't come across as though they're just like discarding these people as though they're nothing. Oh shit! I got so many text messages from my family in the process. This is crazy. Anyway, do you think Trump cares about humanity? No. I think Trump's ambition for this is totally artificial. He thinks that the situation is lost, and he foolishly thinks that as long as he can pass this on to the previous administration as a mistake that he just closed off, then he will look like a hero. He doesn't give a fuck about Ukraine or Ukrainians. I'd go so far as to say he probably cares about being liked by Vladimir Putin more than he cares about Ukrainians in general. He's just looking for a W there. And he thinks if he sucks Vladimir Putin as hard as he has thus far, then Vladimir Putin will give him that W. Ironically enough, the very fact that he's sucking Vladimir Putin and the statements that he's made leading up to the election is the reason why Vladimir Putin has more leverage now than he did even before. Beyond the battlefield, I mean. Leverage in the diplomacy side. Art of the deal, baby.
Reach a deal. Do you believe the foreign minister of Russia? Just real quick, because I want to get to Iran too.
No, he lies through his teeth. He's been lying for 25 years, just like the guy he works for. This is all the Russians' narrative, their playbook, their propaganda. Where's the evidence of that to date? They walked away from what was reasonable. The president offered them a 30-day ceasefire, not 6 months, not a year, not permanent, 30 days. Zelensky says yes, Russians say no. That's where they really are.
By going this far, the president took political risk in giving Vladimir Putin a chance at peace. He better not embarrass the president, in my view, because he'll feel the backlash. He already got rebuked yesterday.
He already got rebuked? The president looked like a giant pussy, dude. What are you talking about? He got rebuked. Oh, you mean when he said, Vladimir, stop? That was the rebuke, dude? What an incredible rebuke that was. Didn't we all? Yeah. Everyone remembers that historical moment when the American president said, Vladimir, stop. Wow. Such tremendous backlash. This is the most Brandonized moment. This is literally CNN saying Brandon is actually having a come to Jesus moment with Benjamin Netanyahu. Incredible.
Yesterday. So now tomorrow, third of nuke talks with Iran. They named Michael Anton, senior State Department official, to lead the technical team on Iran's nuclear negotiations. How do you feel about where we're at right now? What do your sources tell you? What kind of progress is being made?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, we know a couple things. One, Iran's not going to dismantle the program as we asked them to do, by a date certain with inspections and verification. Obviously, that's not happening. That's the same thing that Obama did, by the way. When they began negotiations in 2013, they told Iran to dismantle your program, give up.
Yeah, that's the other side of the story that's really funny, is that Donald Trump, who delivered the death blow to Barack Obama's signature foreign policy accomplishment, has now turned around and is trying to do Barack Obama's Iran denuclearization agreement. I fucking love that, dude. That is awesome.
Up in Richmond, give up the centrifuges, give up your ballistic missiles. They balked, and then we accepted civil nuclear power in Richmond. They kept their centrifuges and they kept their ballistic missiles. They eventually got real close to a nuclear weapon, as we all know, which is the concern we have today. The Iranians are masters at working these negotiations to their favor. So we have to keep an eye on this, certainly.
This guy has straightforwardly the worst positions on everything, by the way. He's like, I don't know about this Iran denuclearization agreement. Maybe we should just nuke Iran ahead of time.
The administration wants a nuclear program that cannot even come close to weaponization.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you take away all the enrichment and leave the centrifuges and the ballistic missiles, they can get enriched uranium from many countries. We get it from 4 or 5 different countries, to include Russia. China, Russia, and North Korea all have enriched uranium. Why? Because they all have nuclear weapons, and they're their closest allies. So clandestinely, they can still get enriched uranium, and they keep the centrifuges to spin that and get it to a weaponization grade, and they keep the ballistic missiles so they can deliver it. That's what we have to be very careful of going forward here.
It got to be Americans on the ground watching the dismantling.
Maybe people will yell at me for saying this, but I do think that the region will be way more stable if Iran had fucking nukes. This is not just my take. This is the Mersheimer protocol. He says this as well. I think Jeffrey Sachs might have said this too. It's kind of insane to think that I could get away with saying this shit. I mean, I have before, but like the HasanAbi doctrine remains true. And it's low-key part. It's the only reason why I think this is because Israel has nukes. I feel like if Israel did not have nukes, which they have, and it's too late, and they've had it for a very long time. If Israel did not have nukes, then I would not have this exact same perspective. Do you think nuclear winter will be beneficial for climate change? I mean, as it stands, you either have a fucking nuke or you don't. You know what I mean? If you don't have a nuke, you get walked over. What are nations supposed to do? Don't make me tap the sign, dude. Don't make me tap the fucking sign. There it is. The HasanAbi doctrine, a guide for nation building. Rule number 1, get nukes. Rule number 2, do not give up the nukes. You know who did rule number 2? You know who violated rule number 2? Ukraine, bitch. That's who violated rule number 2. Ukraine fucked up. And you're over here talking about, oh, dude, countries can't have nukes. What are you talking about? Okay, rule number 3. If you're accused of having nukes, drop everything and immediately find some nukes. Especially if America says you have nukes, you have to find nukes. If you don't have nukes after America says you have nukes, you're fucked. Countries that have gone through this process and did not find nukes, leadership like Gaddafi. Gaddafi learned the problem with rule number 3, okay? Saddam Hussein, a different version of that. Both of those guys went out in not so great ways, okay? Ukraine is a violator of rule number 2. Gave up the fucking nukes. I'm not Mr. Nukes have actually created global stability and global peace, but as it stands, you look at countries that don't have nukes and you look at countries that do have nukes, okay? And it kind of feels like countries that don't have nukes are getting dominated by countries that do. When did Ukraine have nukes? I mean, technically it was USSR nukes that were in Ukraine, way of using them, but it doesn't matter. You should have just, on principle, never given up the nukes. Bro, a Soviet soldier literally prevented the nuclear holocaust like it's defo not a force of stability. That's right. You admit the glory of the Soviets. I've never not admitted the glory of the Soviets. What are you talking about? Technically, USSR ceased to exist and they belonged to Ukraine. Yeah, but the launching platform was still in control of Russia, so they couldn't technically use it. Yeah, the white fascist South African government denuked South Africa for this reason. They didn't want a black leftist government to have nukes. Why did they want to denuclearize Iran so bad? I'm a Zoomer, so I'm not caught up. I mean, it's because when a country has nukes, they have full-blown autonomy, full-blown sovereignty, and they can get away with being treated differently. they get treated differently than countries that are devoid of nukes. I mean, look at Ukraine. Look at Ukraine. Look at what's happening to Ukraine.
Yeah, that program in the way Libya did and South Africa did and Ukraine did. And that's just the beginning. I'm not sure the Israelis are going to sit on the side if they think it's a bad deal. General Jack Keane, there's so much going on. The Institute of Study of War helps unwind it on a daily basis, and you're chairman of that. Thanks so much, General. Have a great weekend. So, NATO chief, Mark.
Did you just say Vietnam doesn't have nukes? Yeah, dude. What happened? I mean, you're Vietnamese. You know this. What happened to your people? Exactly. America fucking genocided the Vietnamese population. That's what happens when you don't have nukes. When you don't have nukes, you get fucking genocided so hard that even currently, almost half a century later, okay, you still have disabilities in the upcoming generation, like they're still born with birth defects. Sorry, I saw XQC duking it out in my replies with Mighty Keith.